Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the Seaman, and I want to welcome you to another edition of the Seaman's Cinema Sit Down. It is week 2. I understand I am definitely behind in my reactions. I'm working. Last week was just crazy. A bunch of different work things going on. Then you throw the holiday in, so there's a bunch of different family things going on. Didn't get a chance to finish editing. Hopefully, we'll have the edits for the episode 1's reactions done over the next day and a half, and then right behind it, I'm hoping that episode 2 will not be too far behind and hopefully get out before we get to episode 3. But that's why we do these little non-spoiler things, so we can still talk about the episode, talk about what's going on week to week, and stay up to date at least with that stuff. What are we talking about? Why don't you pull up a chair, take a seat? We're getting ready to dive in spoiler free into The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 2, Through the Valley. And good golly me. Oh man, this is like one of them episodes, like, it's tough to talk about spoiler free. What I can say, unbelievably well executed episode. It's one of those things where there is a real big, important piece of storytelling that, is going to lay a lot of foundation for what we get in the next, the rest of this season and the seasons to come, whether it's 1 or 2 or whatever it is. Some big storytelling elements that have to happen in this episode, and the execution of those story elements from the game to the screen. While there are slight changes, and I'll be very interested to see what those slight changes mean for the TV show, but changes that don't change the story. You know what I mean? Like the little tweaks that Maizin and Druckman make throughout the course of any of these episodes, I always find to be unbelievably fascinating and unbelievably well executed in ways that enhance the experience or enhance what you're going to do from the television storytelling perspective. And they moved some characters around this episode where they are in different places at different times than they were in the game. I will be interested to see how they play with those things. But when you talk about what you accomplish with this, one, like I said, some massive storytelling beats that are inherent to the game and to the game's story. Really, really well executed. There are moments that are verbatim the same as the game. There are moments that are, a little bit different or slightly changed that do enhance what you're getting. There is some wonderful tension. There is some wonderful action. There is emotion. It's one of these things where I think Maizin and Druckman do such a phenomenal job of making you feel everything all the time. And it's one of those things that was so true to the game. The game made you feel things, and you covered a wide range of emotion playing that game, and that execution is what made the video game special. The other thing, though, going on in this episode is some new stuff that's not in the game, that is just on the TV show. Things that were talked about in the game. Jackson being under siege from infected is mentioned in the game. You just never get to see it. And we've seen the trailers, so we know that that's coming. And that is one of the things that they play with this week. And how you are dealing with the infected and just the execution of that entire sequence. So good. So terrifying. There are some interesting things at play with the infected this season that have video game roots, but are being given to us in ways that we didn't necessarily get in the game. And it genuinely does make them more terrifying. Like, there is one shot. We're in the middle of winter. We're out in the snow, and there's something that happens in the snow with the infected. Where, like, when it started happening, I was like, "Oh, that's such a cool visual." And then started to think about what that meant, and you were like, "Oh, that's really kind of scary." And how they are playing in the show with the evolution of the infected that are tied to video game roots, things that have just been present in the game from day one. Like the stalkers, it's really interesting and it's really fascinating, and it teased them up to do some really cool things from the action standpoint. There were moments in this episode where I was like, I'm getting like Game of Thrones level vibes on trying to hold off an enemy, and how they played with that and how they executed that and what that meant for the town, I just thought was genius. And how they sync it up with what's going on in a different place with other characters. The drama just has you on the edge of your seat the whole episode. And it's one of the cool things where, as someone who played the games and loves them as much as myself, and I'm sure other video game players feel, to watch them bring some of this stuff to life, to see them go down the pathways that they go, to tell the story accurately, but give us these additions that just enhance the overall experience, or give us the ability to see things that are mentioned or noted or on a piece of paper that you find. It's just really, really cool, and this is certainly going to be one of the biggest episodes of the entire season. Like I said, it is like a linchpin moment, a crux. Like, things from this point forward are gonna be different, and they're gonna be different with everything that the story is juggling. So the execution, again, from Maizin and Druckman on the writing side continues to be spectacular. Listening to the inside of the episode, you find out that they were on location in an actual storm shooting this stuff. So when you see these characters and these actors looking beat up from the cold, looking frozen, feeling and shivering because they are cold, that was all real, which is such a cool thing. Clearly made the production very difficult over that stretch of time, but to execute that stuff on location in the elements adds a level of realism to what's going on that you know, Pedro mentions it in the inside of the episode, where it's like, being in that scenario informs you as an actor. You are really living it out in some ways. You know, there's no green screen, there's no anything. So from the production standpoint, like I said, this is a big episode. There's some big things happening, and there is really nice CGI, similar to season 1. When you need it, it's there. A lot of it is from a distance, and when you're up close, you're talking about practical makeup, extras, actors being in the elements, sets fully built. Like, all of that stuff just added a layer of realism to what was going on throughout the course of this whole episode, where, like I said, you are feeling what is happening in the episode, and it really does build to just a wonderfully executed crescendo that puts you through the ringer and puts you through all of it. And I just love that execution across the board. Performance-wise, this episode is a little bit bigger for Abby. We do get to learn some more stuff, and I continue to be intrigued to see how non-video game players respond to the things that were being given about Abby's story, especially because a lot of that stuff gets revealed to the game players far further down the line. Like, you end up learning stuff that we've learned over the last 2 episodes much later. So I'm interested to see how that's impacting people that are watching the show, and how video game players think it's going to impact the non-video game playing audience. For me, I think it's going to be difficult to replicate some of the things that you end up feeling in the video game, because of some of the events and where they give you perspective reveals that we're getting up front. I think it makes the waters a little bit more muddy, and I'll be interested just to see how that overall is played with. But that being said, what we get from Kaitlyn Dever in this episode, if anybody was doubting that this was the person to play Abby, I hope this episode quells those feelings. She is such a talented actor, and her execution of what is just going on internally inside of Abby, I don't need her to be brolic. I don't need her to look exactly like the character. Kaitlyn Dever is carrying all of the things that she needs to be a perfect version of Abby for this television show. It's very similar to how I feel about Bella and Ellie. I don't care that she doesn't look like the character. How she carries herself, what she has going on inside, and how she executes that is perfection. And that is so nice to get to see already 2 episodes in with Dever. She is capturing the character correctly, and she is carrying the things that she needs to carry to motivate her to go to the places that she's going to go throughout the entire season and the entire course of the run of her story. Like, this is an episode for me that solidifies that we're in good hands with Dever, and the things she is juggling in this episode, the emotions that she is playing with, like, there are looks in her face at certain times where you're like, oh my gosh, the execution. I think that's one of the biggest thing in this episode for all the actors. Just the looks that they are giving give you so much, inform you so much about what is happening internally without them having to say words. And then when she's asked to say words, the execution of those things is top end. And she, I think, handled everything with this episode flawlessly. Bella, much smaller episode for her, but same thing. There's a lot going on in this episode. And when she is brought in, and when she shows up, and when she's given moments, continues to be flawless. And the same thing. There are just looks in her eyes at different times that just inform you about the character so much without any words having to be said. And her execution in this one needed to be perfect, and it was. The same can be said with Pedro Pascal, who is just continually one of my favorite people in Hollywood right now. He's so versatile. He can do so much, and much like Deaver and Ramsey, he's someone who can give you so much with just a look. And there is one look in this episode where I was like, he is saying so much. And it's just one brief look. How he carries himself in this episode and what he's given, again, unbelievably well executed. And it was very nice to hear in the inside the episode stuff at the end of the episode how he just is a consistent presence that makes the people he's working opposite with comfortable and feel safe. Some of the stuff that is built into the story is tough, you know what I mean? And having someone like Pedro be opposite in those moments gives, I think, his co-stars the ability to feel free enough to execute what needs to be executed perfectly. And I just love continuing to see that. Diego Luna, same thing. He is kind of having to deal with what's happening in Jackson a lot in this episode, as you would expect the leader of the town and the settlement. And he gets put through a ringer. And again, there's not a lot of time to say things, but the looks in his eyes. I mean, there's something we've seen in the trailers with him. It happens in this episode where you're just like, you are living everything he is feeling through his face. And the execution just around all that stuff is stellar. And everybody, you know, I mean, Isabella Merced, much smaller role this episode, but continues to be really good when given moments. Different people in the town, different moments that are just created so accurately from the game. The execution from everybody here has been flawless to this point. And it's not shocking because that's just how I feel about the show in general. It's going to be a real tough task for this show to make me feel like it's not doing things perfectly, because through what we're now 11 episodes in of this massive story that we're telling, it just continues to hit all the notes and all the beats and all the things that it's supposed to. And I, as a video game fan and a fan of this story and this material, I'm just so happy that it's being represented so well. And I genuinely can't wait to see where we go next and how Druckman and Maizin continue to play with super accurate things from the game, but giving us other things that were just small beats or elements or things that you hear or you read in ways where now we can visualize it and contextualize it and experience it. And that's the thing, too, especially about this episode. It is an experience. The show is an experience. And getting to live through it after playing it, it's incredible to watch it have the kind of impact that the game had. Might not be quite to the impact that the game had, because again, the way that certain things are structured in the game, I think deliver that impact in a bit of a stronger way than what we're doing here, which is why I am interested to see how people feel about knowing all the things we know about Abby's character 2 episodes in, and how that will play as we move through the story. But that execution, man, it is just right where it needs to be, consistently giving us more than I think we get in the game sometimes. And that's one of those things that just makes this story and this creative team and this show so special. So episode 2, Through the Valley, checked all the boxes once again. A really, really strong week. Another top-end piece of television. Like, this is an episode I think people will talk about consistently. And there's just going to be more of that, because where the story goes and where we're heading, there are gonna be other episodes that just have this kind of impact, and to see when those land and see them executed so well makes me so happy. So absolutely loved this episode. Can't wait to see where we go, see how they continue to juggle our emotions, keep taking us into these dark places. You know, I mean, this is a show that does not shy away from its darkness or the violence or what drives people to do the things that they're doing. And those are the things that I continue to look forward to seeing how they play with, and continue to see how they play throughout the course of the season. That's it. I'm going to shut up. I'm going to flip it over to you, my video gamers. What'd you think of episode 2? Keep it spoiler free, because this is a spoiler free video. But how did this episode work? Did it meet the bar that the game set? It's a high bar to hit, but I think some of the things that they did to get us there gets it pretty damn close. So how do you feel about that? What'd you think about getting to live through a horde pushing up on the city? Like I said, this is something that's spoken about, read about. It's hinted at in the game, but we never get to experience it. So what was that like for you? What did you think of the blending of the two main storylines that were going on in this episode? And what did you think of the execution from the performers, specifically Kaitlyn Dever? I know video gamers, some of you had issues with her being cast, have had questions from jump. We've come through a nice piece where she was able to prove herself, at least for me. So how are you feeling there? If you haven't played the video game and you're watching the series only, what did this episode do to you? Where are you, and where is your head at? What did you take in? What did you think about the big actiony stuff and the more deeper, kind of just well-written and well-delivered pieces of the story? How are you feeling about Abby, Ellie, Joel, Tommy, Dina, Jesse, everybody that's in the mix here? What's going on? How are you feeling? What are you thinking heading into week 3? Keep it spoiler-free, but let me know what you're thinking. And if you haven't watched the episode yet, are you excited? Are you nervous? What do you think is coming in the course of this season? What are you looking forward to? Anything you got, good, bad, indifferent, on The Last of Us Season 2, but specifically Episode 2, Through the Valley? I want those thoughts down below in the comment section. Look forward to talking to y'all down there. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're new, you want to come hang out with the C-Man anytime. We're talking movies, TV, trailer, reactions. You want to be here for my week-by-week coverage of The Last of Us. These spoiler-free reviews, eventually the reactions and the spoilery content. You just dig the vibe, you want to show a little love and support, come join C-Maniac Nation. Super easy. Jump over there, hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell if you want those alerts. And until next time for the C-Man's Cinema Sit Down, I've been the C-Man. I'm signing off. Peace!
C-Maniac Nation, you look nervous. Is it the scars? Would you like to know where I got them? No? Well, then maybe you'd like to see another video with the C-Man. How about up here or over here? And if you really dig the C-Man, well, then show him a little love right over there.